Hi, so I'm Nick here from Sportfish, and today I'm going to go through what's in my pack or vest for early river chalk stream, freestone rivers, all the sort of little bits and pieces, the bare necessities really that I'd need with me out there on the river. Personally, I like to carry a chest pack, but I know a lot of you guys out there prefer the vest option. It seems to be a little bit easier for you to keep things in your pockets. And so Fish Pond are doing this really cool new one, which we've just got in. It's made from recycled products. It's got loads of pockets, nice area to keep your flies on. I think there's an area on the back, yep, where you can attach your net, especially if you've got the fold-away type nets, which I use myself. That would actually slot perfectly into the back of the jacket like that, so it's nicely out of the way when you're not actually using it. It's a very, very good option, so come in and take a look at one of those. Right, now down to the nitty-gritty part of it. What I like to have with me, the bare necessities on the river. Obviously you're going to need things like leader, so I carry a few spare packs of leader. For river fishing in the UK, anywhere between 3 and 5 pounds, depending on the time of the season. A good option, personally I quite like the profile ones, as I find them to be a good affordable option. There are a multitude of different options in that department, so you'll find one that suits you and for what kind of water you're fishing. On top of that, you need a couple of other little bits and pieces. So firstly, if you're dry fly fishing, you're going to need a floatant. So I tend to go with the gink, but if you're using CDC, you could go for a frog's fanny type product or a dry shake type product. There are, as I say, a number of different options in the floatant department. Some guys even prefer the aerosols. So you'll find one that kind of works for you, but ultimately you'd need a floatant of sort. Further down the line, or further up the line, you may find that you need mud, which I find to be really important on those sunny days. So fish are coming up to your dry fly, they may be spooking away and refusing it. It might not necessarily be that you've got the wrong fly. It actually might just be that they can see the leader. So you take a pinch of the mud, you wipe it along the leader, that kind of conceals it. You really will notice when you put the fly line down in the leader, you'll see the little butt section, and then you'll see that it kind of disappears in front of your eyes, which is really vital to those spooky chalk stream trout. If you're going to be doing any nymphing in the early season, another really good product is the Loon Strikeout, which is basically a yarn indicator. Comes in a little tub like that. It's reusable. You get a nice foot section of it, so you can trim off as much as you need, and that attaches very easily to the leader. And depending on what depth you're fishing, you can adjust it and obviously fish different lengths. So for the nymph fisherman, it's a really important product to have with you. Obviously if you're fishing a little later in the season and you're primarily on the dries, you might not need to be nymphing in certain rivers. Obviously you need to check the rules and make sure that you're allowed to throw nymphs depending on the time of the year. Okay, so I've spoken about the couple of little bits and pieces that are really essential out there on the river and to keep in your pack with you or your vest. But more importantly, you're going to need flies. So I like to carry a really decent fly box. I tend to go with the CNF ones. I find them to be really hard wearing, durable. They've got a decent waterproof seal around the edge of them and nice slotted foam, so it keeps your flies nice and organized. Not that I'm really good at keeping my flies organized, but you know, I know a lot of guys like to keep them really uniformed, and so this box is really the kind of way forward when looking at organizing your flies. Some of the flies that I carry are, you know, various dries, nymphs, hare's ears for the nymphs, and some of the pheasant tails and things like that. I always like to have a couple of big daddies for those sort of grey days, trying to lift fish off the bottom. If I'm fishing sort of potentially for grayling, sometimes I have sort of the shrimpy patterns. I've got beetles and dries of all sorts. I've got caddis for later in the season. One of my favorites is actually the clink hammer. That's a fly I carry a lot and fish a hell of a lot. I find it to be a really good pattern. So yeah, obviously look after your flies, try and keep them together. Nice perfect thing in one of these vests. But if you struggle to sort of pick flies out of the box, if they're really messy, another important item to have are the scissor forceps. Some of the guys use them to actually remove flies from the box, but more importantly, these are really good for debarbing your flies, removing hooks from fish's mouths. What I like about these ones is they're actually scissor forceps, so I don't have to bite through my fishing line, which, you know, is never a recommended way of doing things. So you can cut through those, debarb the flies. It's even got the little pin for removing varnish from the eyes of some of the flies you may have tied or bought. I carry it on a lanyard so that I can have it easily accessible and not going to drop it in the river. So you can always drop by the store. We've got plenty of different options in that department as well. I'm going to move on from that. I'm going to look at something that's essentially one of the most important items to always have with you when fishing. It's a decent pair of sunglasses. Personally, for the UK, I like to go with the yellow lens Costas. I find that when you're down into the valleys around the rivers, often it's quite low light, you're in and amongst the trees. Here in the UK you also have a lot of grey weather days, and essentially when you're fishing for a lot of your chalk stream and river fishing, some of the best fishing is later in the day. So you've got low light conditions. I find the yellow lens Costas to be the way forward when coming to your sort of choice of eyewear. That's really essentially the most basic way to approach the river. Of course, we've got loads of other things on option, and you can choose to have 100 things in your bag or essentially 7 or 8 items as I do. The way you approach the river is essentially all up to you, and we can always help you here with your decision making on what products you would like to use. When you're out there, another one thing I must chat about, these are a great product that we've just got in, are the Yeti coolers. This is the Rambler flask. Whether it's hot or cold, this will really cater for your needs. You know, in the middle of summer when it's really hot, you can pop cool drink in there, maybe something stronger. And in the early season when it's cold, yeah, I'll pop a nice tea or a coffee in there, and those really will keep you, hydrated throughout your day's fishing. But yeah, we've got loads of different products on offer, and pop down and come and give us a chat. We'll see if we can help you.